Hi, this is Nicole Dyer, and I'm here today to talk about how to use Airtable for tracking DNA matches. The first thing you'll need to do is sign up for your own Airtable account. Go to airtable.com and click Sign Up for Free. From there, you will create an account that you can then use to create Airtable bases and track your DNA matches and genealogy research. A little bit about Airtable. Airtable.com is a hybrid between a spreadsheet and a database. It's really perfect for tracking information about DNA matches because when you have DNA matches to track, there's a lot more information that you need to keep track of. Research logging is a wonderful way to help you make progress on your genealogy research objectives. And so today I'm going to be sharing how to use our Research Like a Pro with DNA Airtable-based template so that you can make progress on your genealogy objectives. What is a relational database? Airtable is an example of a relational database. You don't have to use a relational database for your genealogy research log. There's many possibilities that you could use. Good tools include tables and spreadsheets. Better tools include those with the ability to sort data and manage multiple tables. And the best tools are ones that can link records between tables to minimize duplicate data entry. And that is the amazing thing about Airtable, is that you can link records between tables. Spreadsheets will work fine, but a database tool is better. And relational database tools allow you to track multiple data points and describe them in several ways. One of the terms that we talk about with databases is normalizing the data. This is where you keep information in separate tables, and there's a place for everything, and everything is in its place. So with Airtable, it's a web-based database tool, and it's pretty user-friendly. I was able to learn it pretty quickly, and I think it's easier to learn when compared with more advanced database tools. There's different tools out there like Microsoft Access, and there's all kinds of database tools. And a lot of them are used by developers and people who have more training than I do in using databases. That's why I like Airtable, is that I think it is user-friendly, and most people who've used spreadsheets in the past are able to learn Airtable pretty quickly. Airtable helps you create links between tables so that you can view your data in multiple ways and in flexible ways. It allows you to sort and group your data and filter your data, create new views. You can create unique field types. Some key terms for you to know are that when you're working in Airtable, the main spreadsheet that you'll have is called a base. And within a base, you'll have tables. There are multiple grids or pages within the base, and these are all called tables. Within a table, you'll have records and fields. These are the same as rows and columns in a table. So adding DNA sources to a research log means that you're going to have many data points to track. Each of these could be in separate tables. You may have a people table with test takers, matches, and ancestors, a DNA match details table, a kit access table where you remind yourself of the results of different people that have shared with you or who've tested for you that you can view their results. You may have a table for your correspondence showing the messages you've sent and received responses for, a research log that shows what you've done in your DNA tools and your documentary research, a table for segments showing the shared segments between you and a DNA match, the surnames that you found in different DNA matches trees, and the locations you found in different DNA matches trees. These are all just examples of different tables you might have within your Airtable base. Now that we've covered kind of the basics of Airtable, let's go back to going into Airtable and figuring out how to set up our account. Most people will be fine using the free Airtable account. This is for individuals, and it's perfect for when you're just getting started using it and you want to see if it's going to be useful for you. And I've always been on the free plan, and it works great because it allows you to have unlimited bases. So think of a base as a spreadsheet, and you can have an unlimited number of those. If you want to collaborate with others, just know that with the free plan, you'll only be able to collaborate with up to 5 creators or editors. If you want to have someone be able to view your base, to share it with them as a viewer, you can have an unlimited of commenter and read-only users. And so this is a very good option for most genealogy research logs. There is a limitation of the number of rows or records that you can have per base, so it adds up all of the records or rows in each table in your base, and if you get more than 1,200 records, then you can't add to it anymore, and so that's your limit. And then if you're adding attachments, because in Airtable you can add uploaded files, images, PDFs to a row or record, if you're doing that, you can only have 2 gigabytes of attachment space per base. So if you reach that limit, then you'll also need to either upgrade or create a new base to continue adding. So that is kind of the limit of the free plan. And so with those limitations in mind, I would encourage you to get started with the free plan and try it out. And what I've found is that as I'm doing a genealogy research project with a specific objective to determine the parents of one of my ancestors, I don't need to add more than 1,200 rows. I'm typically able to complete my projects and find the information that I need and track that all in 1,200 rows. Now, if I were going to create an Airtable base that had all of my DNA matches from every company, I would absolutely run into that limit right away. So that's not what I would use Airtable for. For that, I would use a spreadsheet. Once you have created an Airtable account, you'll see this homepage, and this is kind of your account homepage. It shows the Airtable bases that you already have, and you can set up different areas within your homepage, which are called Workspaces. To create a new workspace, go to the bottom left and click Add a Workspace. When you do that, you'll be able to give it a name. You can see that I have one called Genealogy Projects. Each of your workspaces can be on a different plan. So you can see that my Genealogy Projects workspace is on the free plan. All of my workspaces are on the free plan. I have one for home, one for work, one for church, and one for genealogy projects, and they're all in the free plan. This allows you to share and collaborate with different people if you need to. You can share a whole workspace with one person, or you can just share one base with the person. It just depends on how you're doing things. After you click Add a Workspace, you'll see this pop-up that says, are you sure you want to create a new workspace? And it talks about how pricing plans are tied to workspaces. And existing workspace collaborators and pricing plans will not be applied to the new workspaces. So just a little info about that. So then click Create Workspace, and then you can come down. It'll appear on your home page at the bottom of your current workspaces, and then you can give it a name. So you can give it a title like Genealogy Projects or something like that. Now I'm going to introduce you to Airtable Universe. This is where templates for Airtable bases are published by creators like me. So I've created several Airtable base templates that can help you get started with logging your DNA matches, with keeping track of the fan club, with your documentary research. So there's 2 ways to get there. You can just type in airtable.com/universe, or at the top of the Airtable homepage, you can click Universe. You see I've got that highlighted. Once you get there, this is what Airtable Universe looks like. And you'll be able to click Search Universe and look for different types of Airtable bases that you want to use. If you type in my name, Nicole Dyer, you'll see 6 results. The 6 results that you see are not the only bases that I've published. So in order to see all of my templates, you'll need to click on my name or my picture, which is right here at the bottom of one of the bases. So make sure you click on that, and then you'll be able to see all of the bases that I have published as templates. Now you can see the 8 Airtable base templates that I have. And then to get to the Research Like a Pro with DNA Airtable base template, scroll down and you'll see there are 2 options. One has example data, and that's the yellow one on the left, and the other one is blank. And it's your preference, and it's up to you which one you'd like to use. Some people prefer to start with a completely blank base with no example data so they can just begin typing their own information. For other people, it helps them to see some example data while they are getting started with tracking. Then you can kind of see some ideas of what you should be putting in each cell. So I would recommend saving, if this is your very first time using Airtable, I'd recommend opening up the yellow template, the one that has the example data. And so once you click on that one, then you'll be able to click Use Template. If you decide to click on the blank one, then this is what it looks like when you get there. It shows you kind of a little bit about the Airtable-based template, and then you can click Use Template at the top. This copies the information for this template to your own Airtable account. Then it asks you which workspace would you like to add this new base to. Then you can click Add Base. So you can see I've selected to add this to my genealogy projects workspace. Now the base will open and you can begin editing the base. The first thing we're going to do is give the Airtable base a new title so that it reflects your own work and your project that you're doing. So right now the title is at the top left, and if you click on the title, it will open up an editing box for you. So the title at the top left is currently RLP with DNA 2023 blank. So you can delete that and type in your own title. Maybe you'd like to type in template. The purpose of doing that would be to have the template for future use so that you can replicate it or duplicate it every time you want to start a new project. In the top left, you'll also see a little icon, and the current icon that I have selected for this base is a pedigree descendancy chart icon. And if you click on that, then it will take you to your home page. So now going back to our Airtable homepage, we can see some of our recently opened bases at the top, and the one that's highlighted in green there is the one we just made. It's the one we copied from Airtable Universe, and we gave it the name RLP with DNA 2023 template. Now, when you hover over that base, you'll see a drop-down arrow that appears. And when you click on that drop-down arrow, you'll be able to duplicate the base. So this is what I would recommend that you do every time you start a new project with a new objective to find the parents of one of your ancestors or something like that. Then duplicate the base and give it a new name. You can choose a new icon if you want to, and you can choose a new color. For example, I had decided to duplicate my base and start a new project to work on this objective about Charles Elder. So I gave it the title Charles Elder DNA Research Log. You're given the option to duplicate records and duplicate comments. Duplicate records is important to turn on because within my Airtable base template, I have a table of the shared Centimorgan data from the Shared Centimorgan project by Blaine Bettinger and Johnny Pearl. That data will help you to keep track of whether or not the relationships and the amounts of shared centimorgans for the relationships are reflected within the range of the Shared Centimorgan project data. So if you'd like to have that feature, you'll need to always keep the duplicate records on when you copy the template. Duplicate comments isn't as important unless you have comments from another user or collaborator who's commented on it that you would like to keep. After you've made your selections there, you can go ahead and click Duplicate Base. Then you will see the result that the Charles Elder DNA Research Log has been successfully duplicated, and then you can click Open Base. When you open the base, you'll see that it has the title that you've given it, and in the top left, when you click on the arrow down next to the title, you'll be able to see this little drop down, and there's two sections here. There's Appearance, which you can edit for the color and the icon, and then the Base Guide. This is just a place for you to enter some text. The text that I like to enter here is my objective for the research project. So you can put in who were the parents of Charles Elder. The example template already had an objective here, which was who were the parents of Elam Hollingsworth. So I can go ahead and edit that to reflect my new objective. And the objective for this project is to confirm 3 generations of the Elder line, beginning with Charles Elder. So go ahead and type your objective there, and then click anywhere outside of the base guide in order to get the pop-up to go away. The first table that we will talk about is the people table. This includes all of the people in your project, your DNA test takers, and the way I think about this is anyone who I can access their test results. I consider them to be my test takers because they're someone who I've either asked to test or they've shared their results with me so that now I can at least view their test results. So those are how I refer to test takers in this workshop. Then there are the matches. These are people whose results I cannot see, but they are matches to my test takers. So even though I can't see their match list, I can see how much DNA they share with my test takers. You may have people who you list in your people table who are your research subjects. This would be your ancestor of focus and their family. They're probably their immediate family. So if your research subject is Charles Elder, you'd probably add his wife, Elizabeth Medley, and their 8 children as your research subjects, possibly his parents as well, depending on who you're researching and kind of what your objective is. You also can add other common ancestors to your people table. So if the common ancestor is your grandparent or great-grandparent, you can add them, but maybe they're not your research subject. Maybe your research subject is your 3rd great-grandparent. So you'll have different common ancestors of different levels that will probably be relevant to your project. You may also want to add the names of different collaborators who you're sending messages to and from, even if they're not your matches. The information that is tracked in the people table in my template is information about these individuals. And if the individuals are matches or test takers or collaborators, then usually I'll have a link to their family tree if I have that. Also their contact information for any living people that I'm working with, collaborating with, like matches, test takers, and collaborators. I'll put in how I can contact them if I have their email address or phone number or their Facebook profile or other means of connecting with them. Another thing you might want to add for this table are things like the matches haplogroups or information about the people, where they live, their residence, their age. Now let's go over to the people table and explore that table a little bit. You can see the very first table on the left is the DNA match details table. But let's go ahead and start with the people table, and you can navigate to that table by clicking on the people tab at the top. You can see that the top is divided into multiple different tabs, and those are the different tables in the project. Clicking on the people table takes us to this grid, and the first record there is a blank row, and you can go ahead and click the plus to add another row and start typing into it. So if you don't see a row when you get to this table, just click the plus button on the left and that will add a row that you can start typing into. So let's go ahead and type the name of a DNA test taker. It could be you or your parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, whoever's test results you're going to start with, and then type their name there. So I typed the name of my grandfather, Charles William Elder. The next thing you'll do is click on the next column or field, or press the tab button on your keyboard to get to the next column. This column or field is called the role field. This is where you assign a role to this person in your project. Is this person one of your test takers? Are they a DNA match, a possible relative, a research subject, a fan, a common ancestor, etc.? So you can add different roles here. You can type in a role that's not listed if you don't want to use these ones, and it will be added to your list of options for the future. I'm going to select test taker. I have access to my grandpa's results, so he's one of my test takers. Now I'm going to go to the profile page. On the profile page column or field, there's an eye with a circle around it. That means there's an information box available for you to read if you want to know what this is for. So some of the columns or fields have info about them to help you know what to put there. So this particular one is showing you that the profile page for matches at Ancestry or MyHeritage is what to put in this cell. So if the person who you are putting in this row is a match, but you don't really know who they are and you want to be able to get back to their profile page quickly to look for clues, you can save their profile page here. Another way that I use this is by putting in a link to the profile of my research subjects or ancestors in my online tree or family search tree. This helps me get back to their biographical details and relationships really quickly to be able to view them. So it's up to you. And sometimes I leave this blank for my test taker. I might not put anything because I know he's my grandpa and I know all about him. Next, we can put the line of descent from the research subject. This is a place for us to keep track of how the test taker or the match descends from our research subject. So if you're using multiple test takers and some are first cousins, some are second cousins, you may want to just track the line of descent here. And an important note is that you don't have to fill in every single field or column. These are just columns that I've found useful. And for different roles, you might have different columns that you fill in. For my test takers, I'm filling in this line of descent, but for my matches, I'm pasting a link to their profile page on Ancestry. So for example, Charles Elder, my research subject, had a son named Daniel O'Connell Elder, who had a son named Charles Rudolph Elder, who had my grandfather, Charles W. or William Elder. All right, now let's go over to the Kit Access table. This is a table where you can track information about your test takers and information that's relevant to accessing their kit. This can help you keep track of who you have invited to test and people who have shared their results with you. If you've asked 20 people to share their results with you who are all descendants of your third great grandmother, and 6 of them do share their results with you, you might have a hard time remembering who they are since they're not close cousins that you know. They're just third cousins who agreed to share with you. So you may want to just keep track of their names and how they descend from the research subject so that you know who they are. You can also use this table to track which types of tests you can access and what databases and where they are. So let's go over to the next table, the Kit Access table, and practice using it. Click on the Kit Access table at the top and click the plus button to be able to have a new row to begin typing into. The very first column or field is the description field. It's a primary field, meaning it's the very first field for the row or record. In this case, the field type is a formula field. Instead of typing within this cell, we will have to skip it because it gathers details from the other parts of the row to create its description. This is helpful because it reduces data entry. So you don't have to type a description. You just type the other parts of the row and it fills automatically. So we'll start then with the test taker field. This is where we put in the name of our test taker whose test we're tracking information about. Click the plus button, and this indicates that it's a link to another table. So because we've already added a person in our people table, this link to the people table will show us a list of all the people in that table to choose from. So the first person that we added was Charles W. Elder. And so let's go ahead and track some information about his tests that he's taken and where we can access them. So click on him in order to track his test details. Now we'll choose which test we're tracking. Click this drop-down arrow to see the options, and we'll select Ancestry. Charles W. Elder has tested at Ancestry. The admin is my father, Mark, so I went ahead and typed in his name there. If there is no admin, you can leave it blank or you can type the person's own name. The family tree link, if you want to add that. I didn't, so I skipped it. And next I want to track where I've transferred this test to. I've transferred this test to many companies. I've transferred it to Family Tree DNA, Living DNA, MyHeritage, and GEDmatch. Now, what if Charles Elder has tested at MyHeritage and you've transferred his ancestry test to MyHeritage? So he's in there twice. You would add another row to track the fact that he's actually taken the MyHeritage test. At the bottom of your screen in Airtable, there's a slider bar that you can click and drag to the right in order to see the rest of the columns in the table. Next, we'll fill in the Access Info column. This is where you can place a note. It's a long text field type, as you can see from the icon within the header of the column, and that just means that you can type a paragraph or multiple paragraphs. So the Access Info note that I wrote for my grandfather is that his ancestry results are shared with my Ancestry account. So if I couldn't remember how to do that, if I needed to log into his account or if it's in mine, that's how I can remember. All right, that's enough for the kit access table. Let's go ahead and go back to the very first table, which is our DNA match details table. So along the top, you'll see all the tabs which list the different tables, and we'll go ahead and click on the one at the far left, DNA match details. This table is where you record a match between one of your test takers and another person at one database. If the same individuals are a match at another database or company, you would just simply add another row. So if your father matches someone and then you find your uncle matches them too, this is another time when you would add a separate row for the uncle's match. So the first thing you do is go to the test takers column and you select the test taker that you already added to the people table. And that's Charles W. Elder for me. And as you can see, the primary field, the match details description, is a formula again, so it will be populating with details from the row. Now we're going to type in the name of the DNA match. This is a linked record field. So when you type in the name of a person into this field, it will look and see if they're already existing in the people table. And if they are, you can link to that existing person. If not, you can check this, click this button here at the bottom that says add a new record named Merelda Gold, which is the name of the match that I'm putting in, just a made up name. So you'll just type the name of the DNA match and then click add a new record. Now you have a new record for Merelda Gold in the people table, and it's linked here to the DNA match details table. Now you can show several matches to Merelda Gold if more than one of your test takers is a match to her. Next, we have a field for the username of the match. Sometimes you know the person's name, but their username at that testing company is something a little different. So if that's the case, you can keep track of their username here. And this is obviously optional. All the fields are optional. You just need to fill out what is helpful for you and what information you want to keep track of. Let's say that Merelda has a username that's MereldaG59, and perhaps you were able to look at her tree and figure out that her father's surname was Gold, and so you can infer that her name is Merelda Gold, but that her username is MereldaG59. So you can put both of those into your row. Next, we have the admin of the matches kit. If a person who took the test gave administrator rights to another person to manage their test, then you might want to keep track of that person's name here, George Gold. Scrolling over further, we have the test type. So you can choose which type of test you are showing a match between two people for. So this was ancestry DNA. And then you can put in the amount of shared centimorgans. And sometimes you don't need to put in all of the different details, nor do you care. So, for example, on this one, we might just go ahead and hide the field that we're not using, like Y-DNA, mitochondrial, or X-DNA. So we can just go ahead and hide the GD for genetic distance and the X-DNA field. The way you do that is by clicking the arrow down in the GD field and then choosing the Hide Field button, which is towards the bottom, and it has an eyeball with a line through it so that you know that you won't see that anymore. When you hide a field at the very top under the list of tables, you will see a blue highlighted button that says 2 hidden fields. When you want to unhide things, you can go to that 2 hidden fields button and see which fields are hiding and then unhide them at that time. This is how you unhide the fields. So after I hid the genetic distance and the xDNA field, now I have 4 hidden fields. Clicking on the 4 hidden fields text brings me to this list where I can toggle on and off whatever fields I don't want to have showing. Next, we're going to Control-C to copy the URL from the match page with this match between Merelda and Charles William Elder, and then we'll Control-V on the keyboard to paste into this cell. Those are just keyboard shortcuts that make it really easy for copying and pasting. Here's what it looks like when you put in the match page. I didn't put in a full match page, but it's usually a bit longer than that. Next, we can copy and paste the matches tree, and this is a link to the DNA matches tree. So I already know the tree of my test taker, Charles William Elder. He's my grandpa. So I can keep track of his tree in the people table, but in the DNA match details table, it's nice to be able to keep track of the DNA matches tree, because when you're looking at the match page, like at Ancestry or Family Tree DNA, it's simple to see that person's tree right there, and it's a good time to go ahead and track that tree information from the DNA match onto your Airtable base. The next field is ICW, which stands for In Common With, and this is a person in the Shared Matches list. I don't always list a lot of people here, but if I used an In Common With list in order to find this match, then I'll use the person I started with to get the In Common With list as one of the shared matches. Then, if there are other descendants of my research subject couple or the hypothesized parents of the research subject that I know, then I'll go ahead and put their names here to help me remember that this is a confirmed match along the line of interest. The next field is the MRCA column, and this is a linked record, and it takes you back to the people table. So if you've added any ancestors into your people table, you can click the plus and add the people that you've already added. And if you haven't added their names yet, you can type their names and then click add a new record. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the common ancestor is Jessie Estelle Ross. And now I'll click add a new record named Jessie Estelle Ross. And then I did that again for my great-great-grandfather, Daniel O'Connell Elder. And so now I have the MRCA couple, both of them, linked from the people table here to this table. Now let's go back over to the people table. In the people table, we now have some more individuals than we had before that we have added as we've been doing data entry in the DNA match details table. So let's go through these and give them all a role in the project. First, we have Daniel O'Connell Elder, and he's a research subject. Same with Jessie Estelle Ross. And then for Merelda Gold, she's a DNA match. So let's go ahead and give her the yellow. All right, now we're going to go back to the DNA match details table, and we're going to type out the line to the most recent common ancestors. So starting with Merelda, how does she get back to Jessie Estelle Ross and Daniel Elder? Well, Merelda is the daughter of Jemima, who's the daughter of Lucy, and Lucy was the daughter of Daniel and Jessie. So now we have a pretty good idea of how she descends from the common ancestral couple. All right, next we have the relationship, and this is where we can put in second cousin once removed or whatever it may be. Now we can put in the relationship, and this data comes from the Shared Centimorgan project, and it's in a table within the base, and it's a linked record. So you need to put in the relationship, or you can scroll down through the list and select the relationship from the list. So you can type it in like this, 2C1R for second cousin once removed, or some relationships are spelled out like half great niece. So if you're not sure what to type in, you can actually just look down the list until you find it. Then once you get used to it, you can pretty easily remember that it's 2C1R for second cousin once removed, and 4C and 6C, and etc. For this example, I chose 2C1R for a second cousin once removed relationship. This now populates several additional fields automatically using formulas and lookup fields. And all this data is coming from the Shared Centimorgan project version 4.0. So after putting in the relationship, then we find out that the expected range is 14 centimorgans to 353 centimorgans. And it does fall within the range. So there's a checkbox letting you know that the relationship and the amount of shared DNA do seem to check out. And then you can see after the within range column, there's something called SD, which is standard deviation, and it helps you to know how close your data point is to the mean or the average. And so the low of the standard deviation range is 63, and the high of the one standard deviation from the mean range is 181. So if the DNA match falls within 63 to 181, it's very close to the average and is more likely to be correct. So you may want to talk about that in your report. So it's good to keep track of it here. Next, you can check a box if you would like to add the person to your descendancy diagram in Lucidchart or diagrams.net or another program. This is a helpful way to keep track that you've already done it. And you may even want to keep a link to your diagram or your Lucidchart program open in your browser or in your research log. Put a link to it so that you can easily and quickly get back to it and open it up when you're working. The next column is the notes column. This is where you can take any notes you want about the match. For example, I typed in Merelda visited Grandpa Elder when she was young. And so maybe you just want to keep track of some facts about the match that you have found out. The next column is GN, and it stands for genetic network. And this is the number of the cluster the match is found in an autocluster chart or network graph. And this is a great way to just organize some of your matches that you have already kind of organized into groups using some of these automated methods. The next field is called Next Steps, and this is where you can just write out your next item to do after analyzing this match. And sometimes you will want to ask people to share your DNA results with you as a viewer, and in this case, that's what I was hoping Merelda would do. So you can write down your next steps, and in this field type, the long text field type, there's actually the option to add checkboxes to list out to-do items. So that's something fun that you can do with this field type. The last column in the DNA match details table is a matching segments column. And I don't usually add the segments here. I will go to the segments table and copy and paste the matching segment data information there. And then when I add who the matching segments are between, it will show up as a linked record here so that I can see, oh, I have segment data for this match. This match was done in Ancestry, and so there isn't any segment data, so we can leave it blank. Our next table to go over is the correspondence table. This is where you keep information from messages with DNA matches all in one place. You may in the past have sent emails, Facebook messages, phone calls, texts, but how do you keep track of what you found out from all these contacts? It's helpful to keep it all in the same place in one table within your log. What I would usually do is add the message and when you got it, and add the message when you received it, and then if you're not currently working on the project, when you come back to your Airtable log, then you can work on it or act on what you found out during your planned research time for this objective. It's good to review your recent correspondence and then make a plan for next steps, and then use the information to build the person's tree further back. A lot of the time when I message a match, it's to ask them what is your grandma's name or grandpa's name, so I can trace your tree. So let's try this. So go to the correspondence table, and as you probably already remember, you need to create a new record or row by double-clicking in the primary field or by clicking the plus. So if you double-click in the date field, it will open a calendar to help you select the date. Now the calendar appears and you can simply select today's date by clicking today. Or you can choose another date. Hover over the row and click the blue arrows that appear in the primary field to expand the record. An expanded record looks like this. It's a pop-up within the table. And this is where you can add more details, and instead of adding them in a row, you can add them more in like a vertical document type layout, if that appeals to you. You do need to open up the record in order to add the two or the DNA match. So click Add Record and then put in their name. And the admin field is a lookup field, so it automatically populates when you select a person who has an admin in their match details. So that helps us to see, oh, my message is probably not going to go to them. It's going to go to their admin or manager. Next, you can type the message. You can type who is sending the message. So maybe you're sending the message. A lot of the time it will be you. But maybe you have another relative or collaborator who helps, and maybe they sent a message in the past that you want to keep track of. So you can put the name of the person who sent the message if it's not you. Then you can do the type of contact. And if you click the drop-down arrow, you'll see some options like Ancestry, Message System, MyHeritage, 23andMe, email, Facebook, phone, etc. Select the mode of contact, and then you're done with that. I selected the Ancestry Message System, and then I copied and pasted in the message. This one was sent to both Merelda and the person who's the admin on her kit, George. So I thought I would include both of them. Next, you can put the reply date when the person replies to your message. And I put the date, and then I copy the reply that I received from them and I paste it in here. Now we'll talk about the research log, which is a place in your Airtable base that you can track documentary sources. You can also track DNA tools that were used, and you can track research done to determine the identity and pedigree of DNA matches. You can do research to verify the trees of DNA matches and log it here as well. Now we're in the correspondence table right now, so let's go ahead and click outside the expanded record or click the X in the pop-up window. Now we'll go at the top to the tab called Research Log. Click on the first row and add a person. Remember, you can't type into the formula field, which is the primary field in this table. So we just need to fill out the rest of the row, and then the primary field will be populated. So we're going to put in that the person is Daniel O'Connell Elder and that his role is research subject. Then we can choose today's date as the day we're doing the research, and then we can paste a URL for where the record is found once we find it online. Then we have a field for the record type. This is where you get to choose what type of record you're searching in. I chose census. So we're going to choose a record type and a locality, and we're going to type in the year of the record. So the locality is a county within Idaho, and the year of the record is 1900. This year of the record is important because it allows you to group and sort based on the year. Now we're going to practice italicizing the website or publication in the source citation. So type in some data in the source citation column and then select the publication, which in this case is the website where the 1900 census was found, Ancestry. So select Ancestry, and when you do that, the little black box appears above it to add bold or italics. And so you can press the I button in order to make the Ancestry word italicized. You could also press bold or strike through or add your own code or add a link, but we're not doing that right now. We're just doing the citation. So we just need to make it italicized. The next column in the research log is the results, and this is where you put kind of what you found in that record. And I found that Daniel Elder was age 45, born in Missouri, and you can put in the whole household here. This is a long text field type, so you have plenty of space to have multiple rows in that cell. Next we have the fan club column, and this is a linked record field, and when you click the plus you can see the list of names that you already have in the fan club table. You may not have any yet, so you can type the name of one of the neighbors and then add them as a new record, and then their name will appear in the fan club table. FAN stands for Friends, Family, Associates, and Neighbors, and is an acronym coined by Elizabeth Shown Mills. As you add people to this fan section, they will all be added into the fan table that you can go edit later. So type the name of the fan club member and then click Add a New Record. Let's say I type in the name George. Then I could type in his last name, Elder. Then I could choose his neighbor as his role, and there's a lot of different options there for the fan club roles. Maybe a witness, it could be uncle, could be a tax collector, or whatever. Let's talk now about the segments table. This is where you can keep track of shared segments between DNA matches. Linked to DNA match details table, that indicates that this segment data is linked to the DNA match details. So you'll be able to see which segments a pair of matches shares, and then that will be fully listed out in the segment table. So in the segments table, you'll paste shared segment data, and then you'll use the checkbox field to remember to paint segments at DNA Painter. So let's press our little arrow to the right at the top of our table, list of tables, and then we'll go to the segments table. In the segments table, you can select a row from the match details table. So you can choose the drop-down list and select a match pair, or you can type in the match test taker's name. After you selected one of the matches, then the next two fields are automatically populated. That's because these are lookup fields. They take what they already have in the DNA match details table, and then they take it and put them out there as the test taker and the DNA match. Next, you can paste in some of the chromosome information, start and stop points, etc. Alright, now we're going to talk about the surnames table. Surnames from your DNA matches tree can help you figure out the common ancestor, and who doesn't want to do that? So let's go to the surnames table. In the surnames table, you keep track of surnames that you found for particular DNA matches, and this can help you with figuring out the common ancestors with them. So as you can see, the surname here is Elder, and it's from the DNA matches tree, whose name is Travis 540. The full name of the ancestor in his tree with that surname is George Elder. And the note is, could George Elder be the neighbor on the 1900 census? So this is a chance to correlate information from what you're seeing in the DNA matches trees and what you're seeing in the research log with the documentary evidence. Now we'll talk about localities. Localities from unknown DNA matches trees can really help you figure out the common ancestor. It helps you find common locations and could help you determine who that common ancestor is. Let's go to the locations table and see what we can do. So the first field is the location. So you can type in any type of location you want there. I just put in a state, Idaho. And this is a place from Travis 540's tree. Then I want to put in who is the ancestor who had that place in their list of data about birth and death and marriage information. And so the ancestor with that place is Travis's father, Marvin Elder. And then you can go ahead and fill out the different jurisdictions. If you do this and put in information for the town, the county, and the state, it will help you be able to sort and group better. So unless you're getting ready to do that, you maybe could just leave it blank. All right, so we've gone over many of the different tables in Airtable. We've talked about entering people, kit access, DNA match details, research log, segments, locations. There's so much to keep track of. And that's because DNA evidence introduces many clues and details to track. Linking to the people table helps you find and keep track of clues that you find. Airtable helps you track information about the people in your project in multiple ways. To learn more, you can look at my Airtable Research Logs for Genealogy PDF guide. This will give you information about all of the different field types, some key terms, how to use Airtable Universe, using an Airtable-based template, and 3 additional pages beyond this one of how to use different functions within Airtable. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you are more able to use the Research Like a Pro with DNA Airtable-based template now. Go to FamilyLocket.com to find more Airtable resources, or join us for the Research Like a Pro with DNA Independent Study online course or study group, where we use Airtable extensively for tracking DNA matches and research that pertains to our objective. All right, have a great day. Bye.